Time for the Diadem Elevate Tour, the heavier brother of the regular 305 version. This one weighs 315, so similar specs to Prestige Tour or Radical Pro. So before I jump into the review, please make sure to subscribe, it helps me grow, and yeah, let's go! I tried the previous version. I think the feel was a bit stiffer. I preferred the regular 305 version over there, and here I slightly prefer the heavier brother, 315 grams, basically because I didn't have to customize the frame to meet my needs. I slightly adjusted the plow through, adding VT Advantex strips to slightly bump up the plow through, maybe stability as well. And for some reason I prefer it that way. It doesn't feel that much heavier, just suits my swing style, I guess. So I also added Diadem's leather grip over here. What I like about the Diadem leather is that it's not that wide, so basically it makes the grip feel a bit more connected to the hand. Funny thing about the Diadem's grip is that their stock replacement grip is quite heavy. So when I changed it to the leather, the static wave didn't shift that much, which is good or bad depending on what you really need. In this case, in this frame, it was actually very good because it made the handle quite more connected to the hand without shifting the wave or balance. Shape of the handle is a bit bigger than, let's say, Wilson or head. I think it is somewhere around Yonex, but a bit smaller. Maybe quite similar to Solinco, but it really depends on which replacement grip you will go with. So the Diadem Elevate line is a control-oriented line with 16-20 string pattern. Not my favorite string pattern, to be honest. I feel like more crosses limits the benefits from the mains. So with 20 crosses, the mains aren't that responsive, that spin friendly, forgiving or whatever. You're getting similar launch to 16-19 string pattern, similar height of the ball, leaving the strings, but the power level is lower. And to be honest, I prefer 16-19 string pattern and adjust the power with a thicker gauge of the strings. 16-20, it can be a bit problematic. It's not a fully control-oriented racket, and it's not fully a spin-oriented racket, not fully a power-oriented racket. It's somewhere in between all of those, so it's a bit tricky with the string selection and string tension. The 16 mains are a bit spread wider than in a typical control-oriented 16, even 19 rackets. So yeah, Diadem really wanted to design the racket in a way to get all the benefits from different designs, different words, and make kind of Frankenstein. So yeah, a bit wider string pattern, 16 mains for more spin, but you got 20 crosses to limit the spin, to limit the response, and get back the control and feedback you would need maybe on hard court, flattening your shots. It can be really useful in some and maybe most cases. When it comes to my string of choice, here I am using Diadem Solstice Power 130. I think I prefer 125 from Solstice Power. I also tried Tecnifibre Razor Code 125, that worked quite good for me. I also tried Signum Pro Firestorm 130, so I think so far the best strings here were Solstice Power 125 and Tecnifibre Razor Cold 125, strong at around 22 kilos. Regarding performance, I would say that it's a mix between Blade and Prestige family, maybe with some inspirations taken from the Vcore 95, which we know it has the same string pattern, 1620, used by Standeman, Wawrinka, same string pattern used by Alcaraz, so for some it works really well. I would say Radical Pro also comes to my mind when it comes to performance and feel. Despite the stiffer index of 67, I would say the frame feels actually softer than the Radical Pro. I guess mainly because the frame is foam filled. You guys know I love foam filled rackets. It's the best way to make the frame more comfortable without taking out the feel and touch. Additionally, this frame shares the same material that was used in head Speed Touch line. The Speed Touch frame was actually used by Sinner. It makes the frame slightly more comfortable. Some might say a bit more muted, but with such stiffness, I would say it feels balanced, closer to frames that are 64, 65 in stiffness. If you catch the ball in the sweet spot, you really feel the hotter response, which is not my preferred type of response, but it's still very predictable, I would say, so not a big deal. I slightly prefer the regular 305 response here. Over there, the pocketing sensation, dwell time and the softness of the string bed was much better to my liking. But like I said, the stability of the tour version and the plow through was just too close to my preference, and the regular 305 I had to customize it heavily to make it work in a competitive setting. I would say it's a medium launch angle, still very predictable launch. One thing that comes to my head is that when you compare this frame to, let's say, Radical Pro or Blade, I would say that this one is actually more spin friendly without introducing erratic response known from some other stiffer brands with 16-19 string patterns. I also said many times on Tecnifibre forum that Elevate Tour reminds me of the older Radical line called Liquid Metal, which was actually used by Djokovic when he was a bit younger. You can expect similar things from the Elevate Tour. So the response is a bit on the stiffer side, but it's not uncomfortable. It's still responsive, but very control-oriented. So it's an interesting mix that many can find beneficial for the game. I would say the current Radical Pro is a bit stiffer and more empty in feel. Compared to Prestige, this one is more responsive for sure. Compared to the Blade line, this one is of course a bit heavier, and so the swing style is maybe a bit longer and slower. You can't really have everything in one frame. It's always a matter of choices, and Elevate Tour was good in a competitive setting. I still would prefer regular version 305, the connection and pocketing it offered, but in a heavier setup without having to customize the frame. So I am actually between those two rackets, Elevate Regular and Elevate Tour. One thing I noticed is that whenever I tried to add some mass to the handle, for some reason I was losing stability. So that's the tricky part of the Elevate. It's more a classic frame with some modern twists, very effective, a bit wider string pattern, but I would say it's still a very demanding frame when it comes to catching the ball in the sweet spot, and I think more advanced players would prefer this frame rather than some casual weekend warriors. Even the regular Elevate might be a bit tricky. Radical MP or Blade maybe is a bit more forgiving, but this one is a bit more classic, and you know, with so many frames flooding the market, maybe it's good that we have some classic options on the table as well, and Elevate Tour is one of those, and the options are very limited. Not many frames come to my head when it comes to frames similar to Elevate Tour. Of course, I could mention TF40, I could mention Radical, I could mention Yonex Vcore 95, but there are some key differences between those frames. I would say this one is the most classic of all of those. The beam is quite thin, it feels very good in hands. Of course, the paint job is a bit rubberized, just like the newest Speedline. Looks a bit better in blue than white. Yeah, guys, subscribe, leave a comment, and see you soon with another review. Probably Radical Pro, because this one is fighting against the Radical Pro in the first round of my tournament of rackets. So yeah, predictions? See you soon.